Get the cheese to Sickbay. The doctor should look at it as soon as possible.
Dominion Tech. Seems a little weird, considering we've got at least 3 species here. Nevertheless, we soldier on. We've got 16 cards here, so alphabetical today, just because. First up, we have ANTIPROTON Scan. 4 points for a super conditional extra attack die if you have a scan and the target ship has no active shields. That's something that is a viable effect. I'm perfectly fine with the effect. It's just too expensive. That's my only thing. Let's make it 2 points. And then we're good. Maybe even 1 point, right? Because you have to consider something like Type 8, which is 2 points, and gives you an extra attack die, period. Granted, only ships with primary weapon 3 or less, but still. I guess 2 points would be fine for this. To say, hey, you can get an extra attack die, but there's some conditions on that, and then we're good to go. The cloaking device. I have thought long and hard about how to fix cloaking devices. And the best I can come up with is that you add cloak and sensor echo to the action bar. Disabling the card is too much. Cloak has its own problems, at least if the icons are added to the action bar, or you just get rid of the disable. Then the cloaking device has a little bit of value. I think another thing that would help is that when you cloak, you could also sensor echo, but that's probably more of a how to fix cloaking, which is a video I definitely plan to do in the future, just not right now. So the fix for cloaking device, this specific upgrade, I say let's get rid of the disable. We'll say you can perform the cloak action. And then at 4 points, maybe go down to 3 since it's Keldon, and then +5 for any non-Keldon class. Yeah, that can stay. Cold storage unit. For 2 more weapon icons, 4 points is just a little much. I think 3 points for that is fine. My comparison is Natasha Yar, which gives me 2 more weapon slots and does that little bit more for 4 points. So if I'm just getting 2 weapon slots, then I don't want to pay 4 points without getting something more. So instead of trying to add something more, let's just drop it down to 3 points. Countermeasures. This is a card that's unique to the ATR 4017. While I don't love the effect on this card, I think it's viable if the 2 dice attack that you make back against them is performed like Gelnon, in such that they don't get to roll their defense dice. You just roll the dice and inflict the damage. You don't get the battle station token, part of Gelnon's action, but you get to do damage. I think that would help, because 2 dice with the defense dice that are prevalent in the game, it's not doing anything. 2 dice is a joke, but 2 dice with no defense dice, that's actually a thing. That I can sit there and go, okay. I might consider that for 5 points. I probably won't, but I might. If that's still not enough, then we'd start looking at lowering the cost. But that's at least a step I'd take before I want to do anything more drastic. Next we have E-Impulse. The change I'd make to this E-Impulse is they roll 1 less attack die this round and 1 less defense die each time they defend. I think only hurting them for 1 defense roll just isn't enough, but if you hurt them for every defense roll, that's going to actually put the hurt on, and then they go, oh, yeah, that's not fun. That's something I'm actually hurting. So, that might be worth something. I don't know. Evasive Attack Route. This is another Cardassian Dreadnought exclusive. I like the first part of the effect. Disable a card, discard one of your weapon upgrades. The problem is placing 2 evade tokens just doesn't go far enough. I might change it to discard this card and one of your weapon upgrades to cancel the attack. That could be a thing. Or how about just you may discard one of your weapon upgrades to place 2 evade tokens beside your ship. Then you have to figure out how to get a bunch of weapon upgrades on this. And that's okay. Even cheap Cardassian weapon upgrades aren't plentiful. I think the cheapest they have is a 3-point. And so even if you sneak Sakona on this, you figure out a way to get a crew. You're still making them 1-point weapons, but you've paid points for Sakona. So I don't think that would be broken. So either like a discard this card and discard a weapon to cancel the attack, or forget the disable of the card and discard a weapon to place evade tokens. I think that works. High energy subspace field. This is the steal tokens. You don't do any actions. The notion is you're stealing tokens. I think this is nice. My only problem is it's expensive. It's 5 points. And I think stealing tokens should probably be 3 points. You're still making this a discard, and it's no more than 1 per ship. So that's the balance you need. Even a fleet of, say, Romulan science vessels doing this, stealing tokens isn't good enough to truly make this overpowered. So yeah, just make it cheaper. Ion Thrusters. You add 1 to straight maneuvers. That's a good effect. It's 2 points. I think that's exactly where it should be. So no change there. Kinetic Detonator. I have 2 changes I would make to this. 1, not make it an action. 2, not have it hurt your own ship. If it's not an action, it needs to be an after you move effect. And that's okay. If you want to keep it as an action, then it needs to be lowered in price. And it needs to say something like no ship may have more than 1. I think at 4 points, you're probably getting away with ships not having more than 1 of them. But if it's any cheaper, then I think there might be a viable strategy for ships to bring multiples and start hurting everything, especially if they're not hurting themselves. My notion to that is you can shield against your own area of effect damage, but other ships don't know that they're coming. Yes, I get that it's a kinetic detonator, so there's different physics at play. It's not energy, so shields don't have the same thing, but you know what's coming. You can do different things. Long-range tachyon scan. Let it work at range 2 to 3. That's still long range. Range 1 is close, range 2 is medium. Range 3 is rare. 2 to 3 at least gives me something to work on. And spending scan to get essentially 1 less defense die isn't the be-all end-all, especially considering that their odds of rolling an evade were less than 50-50. I'm still probably better off taking battle stations or target lock. It's just not a great card effect to begin with. If it works at range 2 to 3, I have a chance to make them roll no defense dice, which is maybe worthwhile to me. I'm going to talk about maintenance crew because it's not even a slot, but it's got to come up somewhere. It adds a crew upgrade slot to your upgrade bar. Problem is it's 6 points, and then it's used to repair 2 damage. So 2 damage is worth 4 points. Problem is, you add a crew, but then maintenance crew costs you a crew upgrade in order to work. So that's almost a zero-sum game. It's not entirely, but it feels like it. I feel like maintenance crew is overpriced, at the very least. The effect is reasonable. It can put crew on things that don't normally get crew. The Dreadnought and bioships. That's a very valuable thing to have. It's also a very expensive way to get a crew slot when you need an extra crew slot and you have a tech slot. Those are rare, but they happen. In those instances, You have to ask yourself how much you're willing to pay for it. I think the answer, knowing you're getting repair, is probably 5 points than 6 points. Especially because if you're putting this on anything other than a Dominion faction ship, it's 1 more point. I like the effect. I think it's really good. I think it's just 1 point too many to ever see any play. Sensor array. A simple wording change. If you have a scan token beside your ship, you may force one enemy ship to reroll one of its attack dice of your choice. Just an extra benefit for having scan, because the timing difference here is if you haven't made your attack, if you have a lower captain skill, then you've taken scan for no benefit whatsoever, at least no offensive benefit. You're burning your scan to force one offensive reroll, and you have to modify first. They may roll into a battle station. They may be able to convert. They can do anything and everything that they want to make it happen. It's not worthwhile. But if you passively benefit from just having a scan token, then I think that works. In fact, instead of you may, put in each time. That way this works each and every time you're attacked. You can choose to have them reroll or not. Obviously, if they rolled all blanks, you'd say, I'm good with that. We don't need to do that. And even then, I think this should be a 2-point card. This is one where it's a bad effect and it costs too much. I'm saying let's make it a good effect and lower the cost, and then see if people take it. Shroud. I've talked about it, but we'll talk about it here. It's 1 more use of your Dominion crew upgrades. And for 1 point, I think it's great, and I don't want to fix it. So, we're moving on. Subspace Carrier Wave. I'm going to steal, again, from my effect. Instead of rolling 4 dice, we're going to roll 3 and have a set hit, because that way I get at least 1 guaranteed result out of my die rolls. Because the worst thing you'd ever want to have happen is to take this 4-point card, to perform your action, to discard it, and to get no hits and crits. That would be an absolute waste. But if you got that 1 guaranteed effect, you'd be able to discard a captain or a crew, and that's at least something. You'd still curse your luck for rolling no hits or crits on 3 dice, but that's only a 12.5% chance. Whereas, hey, no hits on 4? That's still 6.25%. That's going to happen. I don't like my odds with that. But I like my odds of getting at least 1. So, we'll take what we can get. Suicide Attack. You can only put this on a Jem'Hadar ship. Makes total sense. Don't want to change that. I like the effect. It's very rare that you make it happen, but when you do, it's cool. It's a niche thing. The one thing I would change is that the damage you do bypasses shields. Because you've rammed their ship. You have gone through their shields. That might be something to boost it a little bit more. It would also make an effective way to kill some Borg. Another thought there. And our last tech, TETRYON emissions. My problem here is that it's an action and a disable. The pro is you get 3 dice each time you defend. That's great. But the downside is it only works every other round, and you're not doing anything productive that off round. I think this is a card that's ripe for a time token conversion. And 3 time tokens wouldn't be unreasonable, because I think 2 off turns, in conjunction to actually getting actions that you can benefit from, would be very worthwhile. Maybe you keep it with both. Let this exist as is, and have a time token version of TETRYON emissions. But that would at least let people choose. I had to face this version of TETRYON emissions at one point, and it was tough. I did not enjoy fighting it whatsoever. So it's a good card. It's just not a great card because of the action economy sink. But I don't want to change the cost. I really don't want to change the effect. I don't know what else to do about it. Yeah, that is Dominion Tech. I like what they have. They've got some interesting cards. They need some work on some other things, but yeah, that's what's there. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Next week, Borg Crew. That'll be fairly short, but I will look at all the dual faction crews, so like Goval, Croesus, etc., because that'll trim my independent crew list. So yeah, until then, we'll see you around the shipyard. Take care, guys.